difference between a checkbook IRA LLC and a regular LLC. Hey everyone, Adam Bergman here, tax attorney, founder of IRA Financial. And today's AdBits going to explain, is there a difference between setting up a checkbook control IRA LLC and just a regular LLC that you can set up on your own or through a online portal like LegalZoom? What's the deal? Is there a difference? What's going on? So I've been in this industry about 13 years or so. I've probably gotten this question 500 times. Adam, don't understand. I'm using an LLC. My IRA is going to own the LLC. Is an LLC the same LLC I can get on LegalZoom or some other online portal company? Is it a special LLC that's only for self-directed IRAs? What's the deal? So here it is. I'm going to break it down to you and for you. An LLC you set up that's owned by an individual, a business, an IRA, a 401k, a charity. It's the same LLC. Okay, but there's a couple caveats. So an LLC is a limited liability company. It's recognized by all 50 states and the District of Columbia. What's an LLC? It has the advantage of a pass-through entity. So there's one level of tax. There's a shareholder level, but no entity level tax. Whereas a corporation has an entity level tax, 21%, and then a shareholder level tax equal to whatever the dividend rate, whether it's qualified or not, that the shareholder receives. LLCs also provide limited liability protection like corporations. So you get the advantage of limited liability protection, meaning all your assets outside of the LLC are protected from credit or attack. And you get one level of taxation or pass-through taxation. Whereas if you use a C corporation, you pay two levels of tax. LLC, one level of tax. LLC, also no corporate formalities, right? That's another popular aspect of an LLC. You don't have to do annual meetings, bylaws, resolutions. You can have all that basically waived, and there's no requirements under state statute to have the corporate formalities of a corporation. The owners of LLCs are named members, corporations, shareholders. Same idea. LLCs also have a little bit more flexibility in terms of how profits and cash are allocated. They still need to follow and have substantial economic effect, but you have more flexibility versus corporations. Okay, but ultimately, when you set up an LLC, first thing you need to decide is obviously what state. Okay, the second is the name, right? You got to call your LLC something. And obviously, you need to make sure that LLC name is available. So if you live in Florida, you're not going to be able to call your LLC the Miami Dolphins LLC. It's going to be taken. So you're going to have to come up with a name, and you can just plug it in the state website or work with your counsel or tax advisor, and they can tell you what names are available. Now, in terms of what state you want to form your LLC, for the IRA world, you generally want to follow these rules. If you're buying real estate, most people set up the LLC in the state where the real estate will be located. Why? Because even if you live in New York and your real estate is going to be in Florida, Florida will deem you to be engaged in a trade or business by owning real estate, and therefore you're going to need to register that New York LLC to do business in Florida. So you might as well just set the LLC up in Florida. Okay. If you're not doing real estate, you're doing gold, crypto, something else, you can generally pick any state you wish. But remember, if you live in New York and you want to set up the LLC in Wyoming, you're going to need a registered agent. Why? Every LLC needs a hard physical address in the state. It could be you, it could be a friend, a neighbor, a cousin, aunt, uncle, whatever. You just need the address. So there are companies out there called registered agent companies. If you want to set up an LLC in a state you have no connection to, like Nevada, Wyoming, South Dakota, Delaware, you can hire a company, and for a small annual fee, they will serve as your registered agent. Okay, but all of this is put together in the LLC operating agreement, which is essentially the document, kind of like a shareholder agreement, that describes who's in control of the LLC, how decisions are made, how profits and losses are allocated, percentage of interest, how the LLC is dissolved, are there additional contributions, what happens on the sale, things like that. All the important aspects of the LLC, its operations, administration, management, is disclosed in the operating agreement. Kind of like the Bible, right? It gives you the 10 commandments, tells you what you have to do, what sins you can't do, what are the rules of your religion. Same for the operating agreement. So from an LLC standpoint, here's the secret sauce. There's really few things that are super important when setting up an LLC for an IRA or 401k. Number one, you need to be manager managed, not member managed. Why? Who's the owner of the LLC? It's the IRA. You don't want the IRA to be the manager, right? Because then what's the point of having the LLC? Because you need to go through the custodian each time a decision is made, kind of alleviates the whole purpose of doing the LLC. So that's why you need to make sure the LLC is manager managed. That's the most important thing. And really the big distinction between setting up an LLC for your business, your friends, and your IRA or 401k is that if you do it with your friends, most companies will just have it member managed. It's fine. But with an IRA or 401k, it must be manager managed. That is the most important thing. If you do not do that, then you're essentially reducing the LLC and its potential value to nothing, since you're going to need the IRA to make any decision. And who's the IRA? It's the custodian. That's the trustee of your IRA. So it's pointless. The second thing is the operating agreement. Okay, operating agreements are not required by state. Actually, New York does require it, but there's no penalties if you don't have an operating agreement. They're not filed with the state. They're a personal agreement between the LLC and its members. Now, the most important thing, other than being a manager-managed LLC, is that the operating agreement has very specific required language. When I say required by the IRA custodian, not necessarily the IRS, because it's a private document. But if you want to open a self-directed IRA, the IRA custodian is going to need certain language in that operating agreement. What? Certain prohibited transaction language about UBIT, language about how management decisions are made, language about additional contributions, language about required minimum distributions, language about liquidations. Certain important provisions that the IRA custodian is going to make sure for their protection that's included in the operating agreement. Why? It's because let's say you set up an IRA with IRA custodian X, and they have no required language in there, right? No prohibited transaction language, no UBIT, no language of any relevance to an IRA, and you go out and do an investment that's prohibited. They don't want you coming back to them and saying, hey, IRA custodian X, I thought I could buy a house and live in it. I thought I could take my IRA and go to Hawaii on vacation. I thought I could take my IRA and buy myself a Rolls Royce. And then the IRA custodian will say, no. Look at the operating agreement. Look at this section. It has all the things you can't do. Look at this section. It has all the items a manager can and cannot do. And that is the comfort, the custodian, and protection the custodian will require when setting up an IRA LLC. And it's also for the protection of the IRA owner, who should review the operating agreement and make sure they understand all the rules. Most of the rules, again, center around prohibited transactions, unrelated business taxable income, required minimum distributions, contribution limitations, liquidations, distributions, things like that, that are important for the IRA owner to know. So when you put it all together, you want to set up an LLC with IRA Financial Group or LegalZoom. The most important thing is, we're just the experts. We can do it quicker, cheaper than anyone else. We've set up, tens of thousands over the years. If you want to do it on your own, no one's stopping you, right? Just make sure it's manager managed. Set it up in the state where the real estate will be located. But it's the same thing, right? I can technically clean my own teeth and maybe pull my own tooth that's loose, but is it worth my time and money? Our fees are super low. It's just not worth your time and aggravation to get it wrong. The operating agreement is probably something you're not going to be able to do yourself unless you're a lawyer. Now, could you spend 75 hours and figure out what to put in the operating agreement and maybe have it done yourself? Yeah, probably, but is it worth your time to do, right? Probably not. And again, the custodian and their compliance department is going to need to accept it. So these things are there for your protection. Obviously, the LLC is manager managed. Obviously, you need a registered agent. You want to make sure you're setting it up in the right state. And then ultimately, from the operating agreement standpoint, you need to have certain language in there that the custodian will require, and ultimately that will protect you as the IRA manager. And then on top of that, by working with a company like IRA Financial or some other great company in our space, you want to have the ongoing consultation services that if there is a change in law, we'll update the operating agreement, right? If there's someone who's going to notify you of annual requirements for your LLC, someone that may file a partnership return for you if your LLC has more than 2 owners. A single member LLC is an LLC by 1 owner, and it's a disregarded entity. There's no federal income tax filing requirements. There may be state annual payments or LLC filings, but no tax return filing requirement. A multiple member LLC, it's an LLC owned by 2 or more IRAs, 2 or more persons. has to file a 1065 and a state equivalency return by March 15th or September 15th for the extension. You're going to want someone to do that for you. Okay, not going to be able to do it yourself. You're going to pay a tax professional, or you might as well pay and have our ongoing consulting service so we can do it for you, because we know how to do it. We know how to deal with the K1s, and we know what is required as part of the 1065 process with respect to an IRA or 401k. So what I'm trying to say is, listen, you can do anything you want yourself. You can build a spaceship, you can pull your own teeth, you can give yourself, open heart surgery if you really want it. But trust the experts, right? I'm a tax lawyer. If I have a legal matter involving non-tax issues, whether it's a real estate closing, employment agreement, M&A deal, I'm not doing it myself, right? I have lawyers that do that for me just because that's their area of specialty. It's like I go to doctors, just went to the dentist. I'm not doing that stuff myself. Yeah, I floss, I brush my teeth 3 times a day, but I still go to a dentist for a cleaning every 3 or 4 months. So what I'm trying to say is, have the experts do the LLC, have the experts do the operating agreement. Could you technically do it yourself and figure it out on LegalZoom, kind of go online and scour to figure out how to do an operating agreement? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. No one's going to stop you. The matter is, are you going to do it right? Is it worth your time? So just putting it all together, the main things to remember is the LLC must be manager managed. You want to make sure you're forming in the right state. Make sure you have a registered agent. You need a tax identification number, so you want to make sure you're doing that correctly. And ultimately, the big piece of all this is the operating agreement, which the IRA custodian will require in order to fund your LLC, and that needs certain specific language that does change on an ongoing basis. So not only do you need to kind of figure it out yourself, you got to keep the operating agreement updated. And honestly, it ain't worth your time. Trust me. We charge generally about $999, $1,000 to set up. It includes the state filing fee. It's a one-time setup fee. So let's say the state filing fee is $250. We'll get the tax ID number. We'll do the operating agreement. We'll give you the annual consulting. Our annual consulting service of $299 for the IRA is included for the first year. So if you take a state filing fee of $250 plus the annual consulting fee of $299, which is included, you're already over $500. You're paying like another $400 or $500 for everything and the service to get it done for you. Like, I think it's a no-brainer personally, but it's up to you. But it's important to know what's in there. No one's trying to trick you and tell you there's like something special that no one can do but IRA Financial, for example. No, potentially if you're a lawyer, you can try to figure it out. Is it worth your time? Trust the experts. We've been doing this 13 years, got 25,000 clients. Like, we'll do it right for you, and we'll do it fast, and we'll do it effectively. And we'll make sure you have all the knowledge you need when you're entering your structure and making your first investment, which ultimately is important because it ties everything in. Set up the LLC, the tax ID number, the operating agreement. We don't just throw it to you and say, hey, good luck. We consult with you, make sure you understand what you're doing. We can even open a bank account with you for your IRA LLC Capital One, no minimum cash requirement, set up for you for free. So you get a lot of additional services that you're just not going to be able to do on your own. So that's why we're the best. Truly believe it. So if you have questions on IRA LLCs, we even do trusts, and I'll do another podcast about the LLC versus trust. I've done some blogs on that and videos, but I've gotten a lot of questions lately about trust versus LLC. So I'll probably tackle that next week. But ultimately, I'm happy you hopefully now understand what you need to do, why an IRA LLC is different than a traditional LLC you'll set up with your friends to start a business, and then ultimately why the operating agreement is really the missing piece and the secret sauce in the self-directed IRA structure. So thanks for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, really appreciate it. Obviously, it's a weekly podcast that drops every Tuesday. Hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to catch it again next week. Have an amazing day, an amazing rest of your week. Thanks again for listening or watching.